mind's photographic studio. It is quite natural to understand that it would be of little value for the photographer to see and comprehend his object if he had not some sort of mechanical equipment with which to project, focus and reproduce what he sees. So too it would be of little avail for us to be able to formulate our mental objects and to comprehend them if we did not have some sort of mental mechanism by means of which we could reproduce outwardly the thought images held within the mind. For photographic purposes, the photographer has a well-equipped studio provided with settings, camera, and all essentials and materials. A similar inner equipment of the mind is found in what we call our objective state of consciousness, serving us as an elaborate mental photographic studio provided with all the mental, mechanical, essentials and materials needed to image forth and reproduce our desires, our objects of thought. In the manner in which the camera catches up and specializes within itself the universal light of the sun and forms it into the imprisoned light images, which upon development we know as photographs, so do the mechanical faculties which serve as our mental camera collect together and specialize within our being the mind's light, shaping it into the thought images which we recognize mentally. The principles involved in the use of the inner camera of the mind are the same as in the outer photographic camera, serving to focus, concentrate, transmit, illumine, reflect and impress the object to be reproduced. Examining the photographer's camera in more detail, we find that its principal device is a lens or camera eye situated in the very front of the camera. This photographic lens is nothing more, we may say, than an outward embodiment or extension in principle of the more delicately fashioned lens of the physical eye, and the physical eye in turn is nothing more than the outward embodiment or extension in principle of the yet more indefinable, single, invisible, inner eye or seeing faculty of the mind. We find that the invisible inner single eye serves in a similar manner in the mental mechanical arrangement used consciously or unconsciously in visualizing. The infinitely finer rays of our illumined objective thinking are continually pouring themselves in a steady stream of mental light against the more solid mind substance or object of our thought. But as this stream of mental light pours itself against the thought object, it is thrown back or deflected, as it were. It is here that the invisible inner eye of the mind catches, focuses, and transmits this mental light into the dark chamber of our being, where it is assembled, so that the seeing principle within us is able to behold it as an exact light image of the thought object from which it is deflected. Often, the light thrown upon a subject existing in one mind is so illuminative that its reflection occurs not only in the mind in which the object of thought is being sustained, but in many other minds, so that the mental light travelling from a person who is elucidating a certain thing will compel the exclamation, "I see," from the other minds who have levelled and focused their inner mental eyes in the direction of the speaker's mind and have thus caught the image in their own mind. The inner camera eye of their minds has been able to see the objectified thought in its true light by reflection, It has been able to concentrate and transmit this light and reassemble it into a definite symbol or light image capable of being recognized by them. Like the eye of the camera, the eye of the mind in visualizing is or can be made perfect and true. It will collect, transmit, assemble, and reflect for us whatever projected thought object we deliberately may choose in our visualizing work for reproduction. The compartment in back of the physical eye is simply the outwardly fashioned dark chamber, representing an inner state of consciousness which we are able to establish at will in the exercise of our visualizing power, and which serves us a mental compartment, so to speak, back of the single inner eye of the mind, so that we can say there is a dark chamber of our consciousness, just as there is a dark chamber of the camera. In visualizing, at least in the beginning, we shall find it necessary to have some outward compartment representing this same inner principle, some quiet room in some part of the house which can be made as dark as possible and which outwardly will be a counterpart of and help to induce that darkened state of consciousness which is necessary in conditioning our mind for visualizing purposes. With the state of consciousness of which the dark chamber of the camera is a counterpart, it shows us the reflected light rays of our objective thinking, which the inner single eye of the mind has caught, collected, and thrown into our objective consciousness as an object of thought. In this state of mind, we are able to see by reflection the object of our desires. We get our mental perspectives, our focus by means of this mental image. Also, it serves to tell us whether the proper quantity and quality of reflective thinking is present. It is in this state of objective consciousness in which reflection of the object of our thinking occurs, in which we meditate upon and contemplate our imaged thought, in which we are able to get our proper focus toward our thought, our proper perspective towards it, and in which we are able to consider it in the right light. We know that the photographer's tripod serves the purpose of steadying the camera during the time in which the outward object is being focused, concentrated, and transmitted. As a mental principle, our fixed will, among other things, serves the same steadying purpose of the tripod by holding our chimeric faculties steadily directed toward the object in mind, by holding the object steadily in view during the time of focus and concentration, and by holding the mental light image of our object in place during the time of mental reflection and impression. It is upon the steadiness of this supporting phase of the will that the distinctive and good results of the final outward picture is obtained. However, it is generally and mistakenly thought that this holding function of the fixed will necessarily implies a tensive effort or strain of the mind, extending even to rigidity of the muscles of the body. But this should not be the case. The holding of our projected thought should not, and in true visualizing, does not require any such mental state. It calls for an easy, meditative holding of our mental object in place, and should be one of the most delightful phases of our visualizing work. There is an enlarging device attached to the more improved cameras, whereby an object is seemingly brought nearer and enlarged to whatever extent the photographer wants his reproduced picture emphasized. In visualizing, we bring into play a similar inner faculty, which serves the very important purpose of bringing nearer to us and enlarging whatever good and desirable thing in our lives we would like to see expanded and made larger by means of reproduction, helping us to bring out this or that already existing feature of our present outward environment, circumstance, or condition, so that we are able to take the smallest object which gives us happiness and magnify it to a degree where it becomes the largest part of our reproduced mental picture. The easiest and most successful method of visualizing is contained in just this principle of enlargement. We take the most desirable things which are already a part of our outward lives, be they ever so small, and begin to see them in an enlarged way. We find that it is easier to elaborate upon and idolize that which we already are or possess or have accomplished than to formulate objects in our consciousness which may involve an entirely new set of circumstances and conditions.